Selah.
An intentional pause for reflection and connection.
Selah.
Content-rich dialogue and discussions.
Selah.
Pray and worship together.
Selah.
Living the way.
Selah.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Selah, our monthly moment to pause, reflect, and connect. We're so glad that you're here, gathering with family, friends, co-workers, loved ones from wherever you are today. Thanks for making space to be in community. Today we're continuing our series, The Church at Its Best, which is part of our weekly teaching series in our Saturday worship services. We're discovering what it means to be the church Jesus intended. And if you have questions and concerns about who the church is and what it has become, well, you're in the right place. We're glad that you're here, and we are really excited that you are getting ready to have an experience like none other. Let's start with some connection questions to get us thinking and sharing in our Selah group today. Number 1, what do you think it means to be a disciple of Jesus? And number 2, is there a difference between being a disciple and being a Christian? Now, take a few quiet moments to reflect on your responses, and when you're ready, pause this video and share with your group. Once everyone's had a chance to speak, then hit play and come on back for our teaching time with our assistant pastor, Jordan Houston.
With the rise of social media and digital algorithms, these powerful forces now have direct access to our flows of consciousness every time we slide our thumbs across our phones. We are constantly being influenced to believe based upon ads, links, and retweets. In reality, all of this is mass behavior modification techniques, intentionally designed to influence how we think, feel, believe, shop, vote, and live. The tech philosopher Jaron Lanier states, what might once have been called advertising must now be understood as a continuous behavior modification on a titanic level. The world is forming us constantly, but what is it forming us into? Because we are each becoming something. That's the crux of the human experience. The process of becoming a person. To be a human is to change, to grow, to evolve. This is by God's design. The question is not, am I becoming a person? It's who or what am I becoming? For those of us who desire to follow Jesus, here's the reality we must turn and face. If we're not intentionally being formed by Jesus himself, it's likely that we are being unintentionally formed by something else. So again, we must ask ourselves the question, who are you following? Or to take it a step further, who are you trusting? Matthew 4:18 through 22 states, while walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with him, Zebedee, their father, mending their nets, and he called to them. And immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. What did Jesus mean when he said, come and follow me? Often we read this passage, we read it from a contemporary lens, or we read it with our own preconceived notions of what Jesus is inviting us to be a part of. We read this passage and assume that Jesus is inviting us to become a Seventh-day Adventist. Or we read this passage with the assumption that Jesus is inviting us into Christianity. I want to disrupt our equilibriums this Selah and challenge us with the idea that Jesus' original intent in this invitation is not for you to join a denomination or a church. What Jesus is calling us into is a new way of living. Jesus never used the words Christianity or religion. Please understand that it does not make these two words bad, but it was not in Jesus' vocabulary. Jesus' invitation was to follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Jesus is extending an invitation for his followers to learn from him. Instead, Jesus extends an invitation to his followers to practice with him and under him. Although Jesus did not use the words Christianity and religion, instead these two words, what we commonly see used throughout the Gospels in reference to Jesus' mission and invitation, is practice and way. Both these words are used over 50 times in the Gospel. The word way literally means road, path, or way, which means that there is a road or path that Jesus wants us to follow and practice. The original name for the community of Jesus' disciples was the Way, or the followers of the Way. 3 times in the books of Acts, we see believers referenced as followers of the Way or belonging to the Way. This word picture is beautiful because it's conveying the idea that the way of Jesus is not just ethics or just theology, but a way of life. In other words, Jesus is offering a lifestyle shift. Jesus is extending an invitation for his followers to become like him. When we accept this invitation to learn from him, we accept his invitation to become more than a Christian, but a disciple. In the Christian church, we use Christian and being a disciple of Jesus interchangeably. Again, there is nothing wrong with the word Christian, but our 21st century perspective of Christianity takes away from the understanding of Jesus' true invitation. Ironically, the word Christian is only used 3 times in the New Testament. To put it into perspective, the word disciple is used 269 times in the New Testament. The word Christian in the Greek literally means little Christ, which is beautiful. However, during the time of Jesus, the word Christian was used as a religious epithet to mock the followers of the way. It was used by those hostile to Jesus' followers to mock them. It was a sarcastic term, like, look at you trying to be a little Christ. However, over time, our spiritual ancestors embraced the term and used it to self-identify as those devoted to the life of Christ. Here's the problem, and this is what I want us to grapple with today. The word Christian does not convey the same meaning as it once did. The word Christian is a beautiful word. In its genesis, it conveyed identity and lifestyle. However, over many centuries in the West, when you say Christian, a life of discipleship to Christ does not come to mind. Let me take it a step further. In America, the average Christian is someone who goes to church occasionally, has a general understanding of Christian beliefs and basic Christian doctrines, and overall tries to be a good person, which is all good things. But there is separation between identity and lifestyle. Within the last 10 years, the word Christian has become less of a spiritual term and more of a political term. Most mornings I will take a few minutes to read the New York Times, and when the word Christian is used, it has racial and political undertones. Now we often read Christian, it headlines, it's associated with someone who is white and has a strong Trumpian viewpoints. And that's not what Jesus had in mind when he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. In America, a Christian is just someone who ascribes to the bare bones of Christianity and may or may not occasionally attend church. A Pew Research study completed in 2021 found around 63% of Americans identify as Christians. Though this number continues to decline, a similar study by the Barna Group in 2023 put together a collection of surveys and discovered that only 4% of Americans practicing the way of Jesus are following in the way of Jesus. To put it plainly, only 4% of those who identify as Christians are living like Jesus. Jesus' invitation is not to be a quasi-Christian and someone who just reps the name, but a disciple of Jesus. Dr. Dallas Willard, a theologian and philosopher, states, the greatest issue facing the church and world today, with all its heartbreaking needs, is whether those who are identified as Christians will become disciples, students, apprentices, practitioners of Jesus Christ, steadily learning from him how to live the life of the kingdom of the heavens into every corner of human existence. Could you imagine what the world would look like if the billions of living humans on this earth who identified as Christians all became disciples of Jesus? What does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus? The word disciple in the Greek literally means mathetes, which literally means learner. So it can be translated student. However, we fall into the trap of importing our Western model of education, hence leading us to believe that being a follower of Jesus means you need to go to school, take a test. It becomes purely cognitive. And in many faith traditions, including Adventism, we've leaned heavily into the cognitive aspects of discipleship and denote knowledge with salvation. That's not what the word means at all. It can also be translated as a disciple and follower of Jesus. Pastor and theologian John Mark Comer argues that an apprentice or student learner is an accurate word in the English language to describe Jesus' intent behind the word mathetes. Because when you think about this word apprentice in reference to an apprentice to a mechanic, plumber, architect, or an artist, you are learning from a master, not just by way of information, but you are learning to become a type of person with your teacher with the hopes of becoming like your teacher that can do what your teacher does. Let's just pause. Take a moment and think about how Jesus moved and taught. Throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus teaching his disciples, but we also see Jesus taking his disciples with him to watch him do and to participate with him as he does. And then he sends them out for him to do what they seen him do. Jesus, in the same way, invites us to learn from him so that we can do what he did. John Mark Comer states that an apprentice, a follower, or a disciple of Jesus is someone who has organized their life around three main goals: to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, and to do as he did. These three main goals were the foundation of discipleship within the first century. We must understand that Jesus was not the first to introduce the idea of discipleship. Discipleship was woven into the first century Hebrew world. Discipleship was a part of their education system. It was similar to our grad school or postdoctoral school. It was the upper echelon, the epitome of Jewish education. Discipleship was the pathway to becoming a rabbi. You would apprentice and leave your home, family, and village to walk behind your rabbi. Following your rabbi is not a word picture. It is very literal. You would walk behind your rabbi 24/7 to be with him, to be more like him, and to do what he did. The goal of the rabbi was to get you to a place where you could then empower you to continue the work that he is doing. Your rabbi would encourage you after years of teaching to go and make disciples. Jesus adopted this paradigm for the formation of human souls and makes discipleship accessible for everyone. This what makes Jesus' invitation in discipleship so radical, because he said, whoever wants to be a discipleship. It's the equivalent of the president of Harvard saying, whoever wants to go to Harvard, here's a full ride scholarship. Just email me tomorrow. Jesus literally flips the paradigm of discipleship on his head. What was once an opportunity for the Jewish elite is now a given opportunity for anyone who wants to be a fisher of men. For fishers of men, tax collectors, and zealots. Apprenticeship is for the poor, wealthy, oppressed, those who are weak in health, those who are struggling with substance use, the sick, those who are married, single, and those who are even divorced. Jesus' invitation to apprenticeship is for everyone. The reality is we are living in a society that has adopted a version of the gospel that has no call to apprenticeship under Jesus. Instead, it requires you to say a one-time prayer, believe a set of doctrines about God, attend church, thereby ensuring you go to heaven. Although this is part of the gospel of salvation, it is not it in totality. For Jesus, salvation is less about getting you into heaven and more about getting heaven into you. It's not just about him becoming like us, but about us becoming like him. It's less of a transaction and more of a transformation. It's not just about what he has done for us, but also what he has done, is doing, and will do if we apprentice under him. It's about being a person who is not only loved by God, but also is pervaded by the love of God. It's not just accepting the merit of his death, but also receiving the power of his resurrection. It's not just about you and me as individuals, but also about the formation of the whole new humanity and the healing of the cosmos itself. So my question to you today, will you accept Jesus' invitation to follow him, to be his apprentice, so that you can be with him, learn from him, and do what he did?
Thank you so much for that wonderful teaching, Pastor Jordan. Now, within your Selah group, we invite you to discuss with one another the teaching that was presented. Within your group, discuss the following questions. What point stood out to you from the teaching? John Mark Comer outlines 3 main goals of discipleship: to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, and to do as he did. Which of these areas do you find most challenging, and why? What does it mean for you personally to follow Jesus as a lifestyle rather than just a belief system? Pause the video now, and if you choose, you may take a few minutes to journal your answers first and then share with your group. We hope that as you discuss the message today, you were able to discover something new about discipleship. Now, we challenge you to take another step forward. Identify one character trait of Jesus, such as patience, humility, compassion, and intentionally practice embodying it in your interactions throughout the next few weeks. Keep a journal to reflect on moments when you succeed or struggle. Remember, there is no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. So rather than beating yourself up when you fall short, take notice, learn, and keep growing. Within your group, share the character trait of Jesus you choose and pray over it together, asking God to help you grow in that area. Selah is supported by your generous contributions. Right now, there's a QR code on the screen. When you grab your phone and open the link with your camera app, it will take you to a few ways you can give your tithe and offering. We are so thankful for your consistent giving that is making a difference all over the world. Thank you for being a part of Selah this month. We look forward to seeing you again in June. Bye.